Father in heaven, we thank you for the opportunity we have to be here today as citizens and staff, and help us to be able to think clearly and work with the members of our community to be able to make the best choices on the behalf of all of those who live here in Pleasant Grove. Thank you for all that Thou hast blessed us with, for the opportunity that we have to live here in this beautiful community and in this country. And we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Has everyone had a chance to look over the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
It's a motion by Commissioner Coombs, a second by Commissioner Baptista. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And does anyone have anything with the staff reports?
No.
Chair, I make a motion that we approve tonight's staff reports.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coombs, a second by Commissioner Armstrong. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any conflicts or need to abstain?
Conflicts.
All right. And we'll start with item number 1, which is a public hearing to consider a request from Fred C. Cox for approval of a proposed site plan for an assisted living facility named Welcome Home. The site already obtained a conditional use permit for the proposed use. The site plan includes an assisted living center with 42 bedrooms and approximately 50 beds. The property is located at 921 North, 1870 West in the R18 single-family residential zone.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your time. Okay, so item number 1, it's a site plan approval. It's for Welcome Home. That's the name of the facility. It's an assisted living facility. The applicant is Fred Cox, and the location of this proposed site plan is on 921 North, 1870 West. The zone is an R18 single-family residential zone. Again, the name of the project is Welcome Home, and it's an assisted living facility. Okay, so the purple is a little hard to see, and the red, but the location of the place is right here. That's this map is the general plan map that shows the general land use designation. And even though it's in the residential zone, the general plan designates this parcel, this lot, as in the professional office mixed use land use. Now, let me give you a little bit of background regarding this property. So, a conditional use permit for this particular use was already approved in a public meeting, and Planning Commission gave a recommendation of approval in October 25th in 2007. So we're talking about almost 10 years, right? 10 years. Wow. So conditional uses, they stick with the land. Okay, conditional uses don't expire. Conditional uses stay with the land, and so this conditional use is still valid at this point. Now, what is not valid and what expires, it's site plan approvals. Site plan approvals usually have they last about a year, unless an application is submitted for an extension or something similar. But usually after a year, it expires. Okay, so this again, the conditional use was given in October 2007, and immediately the month after, in 2007, so we're talking about November, a site plan was approved also by the Planning Commission. It received approval. We're talking about an assisted living facility, and what the approval was for a project of about 80 beds. It was a 2-story project with 80 beds. Now, 2007, for reasons I don't know, this didn't get completed. Because it looks like they caved for the foundations. I mean, they digged for the foundations, but it actually never started with the structure of it. Okay. After a year after, so we're talking about if it was approved in November 8, 2007, November 8, 2008, the site plan expired. So the applicant came again, and I was doing some some research on previous planning commission public hearings. And then I found out that again in 2014, June 26, 2014, we, as city held another public hearing during planning commission. We gave a second approval of the same project, same plat, same facility. Again, 80 beds, 2 stories. So, like I said, there was no reason to do another conditional use permit because the conditional use permit runs with the property. Now, again, nothing happened, no construction. Okay, and then a month ago, some sort of time around that, we got a new application, again, for the site plan. The footprint of the building is exactly the same, but now there's a downgrade, there's a reduction on the stories, because now instead of being a 2-story building, it goes to 1-story building, and there's also a downgrade on the number of beds. Now it's going from 80 to 50 beds, okay? Here's this is the zoning map. This is the zoning map. As we can see, the zone is residential, single family. However, again, this use is already established in our ordinance as a conditional use permit, meaning that it's allowed as long as they can meet the conditions that were already established legally in 2007. There's an aerial view of the property, and that's when I said that they did something with the foundations right there. It looks like an archaeology place, but that's the area. Okay. We're talking about 162 acres. Now, like I said, the new proposal.
162 acres.
1.62.
You said 162 acres. It's one.
You know, I'm still hoping to go a planning commission without making a mistake. In 1 year, and every single one, I made a mistake like that. Yes, sorry about that. It's 1 acre and 0.62. 1.62 acres, correct. The footprint of the building hasn't changed at all. I mean, it reduced, it downgraded on the number of stories, but still, if you look from an aerial view, the footprint is still the same. So this is kind of like how the landscape is going to work. Okay, that's a floor plan. If we have enough time, we will spend time counting the beds, but we will limit it to 50. We'll say it's 50 beds. Okay. Here's this is the new proposal. Okay, and we can see there's only if I might say that, a Rambler style type of building now. Obviously the height still fits and meets the minimum requirements from our ordinance, and that's the site plan. Okay, that's the site plan with the required improvements around the property. Okay, let me see if I got something else regarding this. So the conditions of approval, the were already established in 2007. They're already also established in the staff report, and they will be the same conditions that the staff will recommend planning commission to use as the conditional uses.
For the benefit of the audience, some of them may not know what those conditions are. Could you read those conditions off so they're aware before they
Yes,
make
ma'am.
it public, so they
Yes,
know
ma'am.
what's already approved as conditions?
Okay. So again, these are the conditions established in 2007, and the conditions are as follows. Number 1, material for proposed monument or pylon sign are to match the masonry and materials used in the main building. Proposed 8-foot tall fence is to be solid vinyl material. The columns on the cover entry are to be composed of matching stone, and the remainder of the features is to match the main building. This is to be illustrated and labeled on the plans prior to the issuance of a building permit. And number 4, that all final planning, engineering, and fire department requirements are met prior to the issuance of a building permit. Also, in the staff report, I mentioned of a couple of items that I did the review. Again, it was a little redundant, but I just make sure that they still comply with it. Parking, we're okay. I think they even have a couple extra parking spaces. I mean, again, the site plan is the same, that will accommodate 80 beds, so now they're going 50. Then we have some extra right there. So because of the proposed site plan meets the design standards for the building and for the design, as well as the intent of the general plan for the professional mixed use, planning staff recommends that the planning commission approve the proposed site plan for Welcome Home Assisted Living Facility with the following conditions: that the materials for the proposed monument or pylon sign are to match the masonry and materials used in the main building, that there's the 8-foot tall fence is to be solid vinyl material, that the columns of the cover entry are to be composed of matching stone, and that the remainder of the feature is to match the main building, and that all these things needs to be presented in plans before the issuance of a building permit. And finally, that all final planning, engineering, and fire department requirements are met prior to the issuance of the building permit as well. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay.
Would you like to add anything? If you could give us your name and address.
My name is Fred Cox. I'm an architect. And I'm the original architect, so going back 10 years. I've been looking forward to something being built. My client that has asked me to submit again is the original client. In between, there were partners that tried to decide to buy the other one out, and due to various changes in banking regulations, the project didn't happen. They did dig for the footings. They never actually installed the footings. But the site plan that you're looking at right now was basically submitted in 2014. I was here in 2014, and the landscape plan, the one just before then, I updated to make sure that we had the 8-foot fence properly called out. We changed the number of floors from 2-story to 1-story and reduced the number of we had 76 rooms, 80 beds. We're dropping it to 42 rooms, 50 beds. But as far as the site plan, it's the same as what had been previously approved a couple of times. So I'm here to answer questions. I can tell you that my client, the original client, is excited to actually basically get the property back from the other two partners and actually build it. And he's telling the bank and everybody else that he'd like to start July 1st. So this time, I'm pretty optimistic, despite the fact that I have been here before. Linda. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Fred Cox. I live at 4466 Early Duke Street. That's in West Valley City, Utah, 84120. Early in the morning, Duke instead of Duchess. It's a type of cherry. Sorry about that, Linda.
Are there any questions from us? Thank you, Mr. Cox.
Thank you.
All right, we will open this up for a public hearing. If you're here to comment on this item, I would remind you that the conditional use permit for this property is long since decided. They are allowed to build an assisted living facility here. We're not going to change that. We are here to discuss the site plan that's up there on the screen. So if you care to comment, please come up to the podium, give us your name and address. And we'd appreciate it if, to respect everyone's times, if you could try to keep your comments to around 3 minutes. We're not going to cut you off for anything. To try to, make sure everyone gets a chance and gets to have their say.
Hello there. My name is Mike Adamson. I live at 1762. Oh, wait, 1762. Well, that's our old one. 1769 West, 920 North in Pleasant Grove. And so, Chairman and Commissioner, I just wanted to be able to bring a couple of things to the table tonight. I will lead off, but we have several individuals from our community that are here to be able to tackle several issues. But before I use all my time, so to speak, can I ask at least point of information and clarification questions from you and also from the developer? Would that be okay?
Just know that the developer will have to use the mic to answer.
I can scoot over or he can boot me out, either way, whatever you'd like. So, number one, I'm curious, has a site plan checklist been completed and taken care of for this?
Yes.
Do we have that on file on record? Is it available to be able to view this evening?
Yes.
Okay.
Grammar request will be needed, but yes, it's public record.
Maybe since it would take time for a grammar request to be able to be completed, is there at least ability to be able to share that tonight?
Sure. I wasn't I'm the land use guy. There were comments from different agencies. I mean, I have comments from fire department, I have comments from engineering, I have comments from utilities, I have comments from different agencies. They're not here to answer to those questions, but we could, I don't know if there's a way I can get to you back later on some of the answers that I won't have, but
Okay.
what is regarding land use, yes, I'll gladly answer them.
Well, just to let you know, we as residents here are not necessarily here to fight the facility. As you said, that's already gone to the bank, so to speak, okay? And so what we're here is to be able to address several concerns that we have, not only with the site itself, but probably more specifically with the roads and with everything else in conjunction with that. So I'll just share a couple of issues that we're looking to try and be able to work with this evening. Number one, I think we would want to be able to establish health and welfare and safety of the area, not only the building, the site itself, but particularly with roads, and how that deals with not only the construction, but especially how that would affect us coming through. That's where I would say for the site plan checklist, we'd be looking specifically on that. For a traffic study, if it's been done and signed by the engineer, we'd like to be able to see that, know that it's been completed, and know the results of that study. Number two, there's lots of things that probably are not completely addressed in that checklist, but lighting, noise, garbage, because you're looking at several things that are already in other areas that have presented some problems with other facilities, Alpine Pediatrics and others in the area. We're also concerned about the property value of our homes, and we'll have some individuals speak to that this evening as well too. Also, there'll be others that'll discuss the speed of the traffic, so not only again the traffic study on the amount and the volume, but also has that been taken into consideration as well too. This would be a high volume traffic area if we're to open up the road. But those are some main things that we have that we want to consider tonight, as well as the possibility of completely blocking off 920 and 930 and also 870. We feel that those are dead-end streets. Those are things that need to be, they've been there. Like you said, if this site plan has been approved 10 years ago, things change. And I've lived in my home there. I've been a resident for 22 years, but I have lived in that home for 12. And there's other members of the community here that have lived here longer than that. We purchased our homes knowing that those were dead-end streets, and we'd like to keep them that way primarily. Okay? So we thank you for your time, and we'll let some of the other members of the community come up and share their concerns and their findings.
I'm Alan Michaelis. I live at 1766 West, 870 North. Are we able to move back to a different map, or does it stay
Yeah.
there?
Which one would you like? Pardon, which one would you like to see?
Let's go back to one of the ones where we can see all the streets involved. That would be great.
How about
We have an aerial.
I
Yeah.
do once the remote works?
And keep going.
Sorry, I have to go across the room.
Okay.
For some reason, this is-
Alan, I've got a copy here if you need it too.
I just want everybody to be able to see it. That's a great one right there. So I live right there. And so yeah, as Mike mentioned, I'm comfortable with an assisted living facility. We've got the medical buildings here, and they have not been, in my opinion, to me, they have not been bad neighbors. They've been fine. I am surprised, however, that with the zoning, that this is all the same zoning, that 50 residences or whatever we call them inside there is comparable to these type of residencies. That seems inconsistent to me. I don't know how all that works, but that seems inconsistent. But so what I'm concerned about is I want to be sure we can preserve our quality of our neighborhood with whatever takes place here. This road here, North County Boulevard, we lived there 15 and a half years. And of course, when we moved in, this was a very different type of road than it is today. There's a lot of traffic that comes along this road, and at busy times, is this the four-way stop, I think, right here? Yeah, when it gets busy here, there are cars that are wanting to actually come down here looking for a way to not have to wait in this line to go right. And then they realize they can't, and so they go back around. And so we're concerned. My number one concern is I want to see. I don't want to see this. I want to see this stay a dead end right here, and us stay a dead end right here. That would be great if we could keep our neighborhoods as not becoming through streets for traffic of people traveling here to other locations, trying to scoot around this or whatever. I did some analysis of property values and such with related to through streets or quieter neighborhoods. I looked at the home sales in Pleasant Grove in the last 12 months and looked at the public remarks section of the listings. And anyone that had a cul-de-sac in the public remarks section, the average sales price in the last 12 months was $358,354. The total for all home sales in Q1, the average, Q1 of this year, was $253,450. That's a 41% difference in the sales price when a property is listed as a cul-de-sac. And I thought, well, there's probably a good chance that maybe different styles of homes are built in cul-de-sacs. So I looked at this 800 North right here, and which connects to County Boulevard and comes through down this way, and found a home that sold there within the past 12 months, and then looked at the comparable homes to it that also sold in the last 12 months. It sold for $268, and the comparables averaged $294. So a difference of about 10%. So, you know, as a quality of neighborhood, it is impacted by the traffic that goes on the road in the neighborhood we live. And I'm concerned that if we open that up to traffic coming through there, it'll impact our quality of life, impact the safety of our children. As I was coming home from work just a couple of hours ago, and was pulling onto, well, it's back over here, but I saw some children on their bikes playing and on the sidewalk and, you know, kind of the shoulder of the road, and thought, oh, I just don't want to see us impact the quality that we have with things we do here. And so I would hope that we could have some options to keep the roads the way it is, and that we could look at whatever we need to do to keep our quality of living in this area as residents similar to what we have today. Maybe that's through a wall that would go up between the residential area and this commercial-like facility. Whatever we can do to keep our neighborhood preserved is what's important to me. Thank you.
Alan, do you want to stay kind of close by here with a pointer? You're handy with it. Sure. And I'm awful with it. I can't even read the map. I'm Jesse Judd, 851 North, 1700 West in PG, corner lot, right across from, okay. That looks pretty good. Anyway, I'm a concerned resident here on 870 North, concerned about safety, health, and welfare. And the logistics there to 870 North, there are 17 homes that would be affected by the change, 12 homes directly affected. There are 30 children and 5 senior citizens, kind of a slow street. 920 North residents, just north of us, one street. Do you want to point that out, Alan? It's a little more complicated. There are 34 homes affected by the changes, 14 cul-de-sac directly affected. There are 27 children, but the complication here is with the 27 children, there are 4 special needs children. 3 are autistic or mentally handicapped. And then in addition to these children, we have 2 adults who are physically disabled, wheelchair bound, who use public streets in their wheelchairs for transportation. And you know, we're just trying to avoid increased traffic, speedier traffic, handicap signs, speed bumps, speed limit signs, stop signs. It really does get more complicated. On 1700 West, right in front of my house there's kind of a mini park there, which is actually a water retention basin, but the kids have made it into a little mini park. And it attracts all kinds of bikers and scooters and rampers, and during the winter, bobsleds and toboggans and whatnot. So it's quite a little center there for the youth. This isn't unique just to our neighborhood. There are other neighborhoods in the area, and I visited one. And it's on 100 West. Can you locate that, Alan? 100 West and 800 North. It's up by the PG junior high.
Over here.
Oh,
No.
well, just try to imagine it then, okay? Let's be really creative here. Anyway, I went to this community, and it's just north of the newer part of the PG Cemetery. And it's 800 North, 100 West, and there was a proposed through street there. And the neighbors, they all got together, and I'm sure they're going through they went through the same process that we're going through. I did talk to the developer, and he said that he missed all the messy part that the neighborhood had to go through, but he came in and he built a sound barrier wall there, a really nice looking one, and built 2 townhouses that look really nice. So you try to picture that through street that was proposed, it would have been a disaster. You'd have a horde of mothers picking up and dropping off kids there at the PG junior high, and then kids after school, they'd be taking the shortcut down through the throughway, and it really would have messed up a very nice neighborhood. So basically, we're trying to do the same. We're trying to keep our neighborhood as is, which would be safe and quiet. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danielle Gillespie. I live at 1749 West, 920 North. I'm a transplant to Pleasant Grove. And I am the mother of 3 of those children that were mentioned, 2 who are special needs, autistic. I moved here specifically, and I chose the house that we live in specifically because of the neighborhood, the pace. I have my 2 young boys, 7 and 4. My 7-year-old attends Spectrum Academy in Pleasant Grove. And so we were literally like 5 minutes away. And it was nice to be in a neighborhood with neighbors in the community who understand and can accept my children. I'm a single mother. I'm a nursing student at UVU. I just wanted to say the sole reason why I moved into this home was because I wasn't going to have the same fear and anxiety that I had living in Saratoga Springs and being so close to Redwood and having children who are runners and having to chase them down and dealing with the traffic and just everything that comes with it. I knew Pleasant Grove was a great community for families. I knew my kids were going to thrive here. And so when I moved here for the long haul, wanting to finish school and hopefully working in this community. But, you know, I don't know statistics, I don't know numbers, I just know my kids. I'm a mom. And I can tell you this, that opening that road up for me, and I know for some other people that I've spoken with, would really be a dangerous situation for my children. I would never be able to let them go out and ride a bike because I would be too worried that, you know, someone was coming down the street and maybe the speed limit's 25, but we always push it, maybe 10 more. No one's seeing my 4-year-old out there playing ball and he throws it out into the street. And that happens a lot. Like it's been said already, there are a lot of children in this neighborhood. That was a huge bonus for me. It was a safe place where people could let their kids go out and play and be comfortable. It personally made me feel very much like a home. And I felt like, and I was paid a considerable amount more for where I'm living now, just for this environment, than what I was paying before, because I was ensuring the safety of my children. So, you know, if that was to happen, I would have to find a new place to live. It wouldn't be worth it for me to stay and, you know, consistently worry if my kids were running out into the street or running down to County Boulevard or, you know, or whatever is going to be happening. So I just thank you for your time, and that's all I need to say.
Hi, my name's Adam Stark. I live at 1727 West on 1100 North up there. And we're just kind of here to support that access road doesn't directly affect us as much, other than we do live on the busy road. We don't have kids yet, but we have plans in the next couple of years, and we've often thought we may actually move because it's a very busy street, and we don't want our kids in the front yard. So we understand that the busy road has a big effect. I just have a question real quick. When we talked last time with one of the builders, that's the one building the lot that's just north of that, he was telling us that those roads, they didn't care whether or not they were connected, but it was a condition upon the city. Where is like the purpose? What is the purpose of connecting that road? Is there a reason it's being connected? And who's the one pushing for that?
I'd say in general, the city keeps a plan of potential future roads throughout the city. And they do that for a couple of reasons: to make sure that there's enough connectivity for people to be able to move around the city reasonably well, and then also to ensure that there are no developments that result in landlocked lots where someone is prevented from developing their lot because something wasn't built that should have been.
Okay.
So those are the two main reasons that the city has. They're called vicinity plans that include these kinds of roads.
Okay, so is that basically a condition then for this specific site plan?
To complete the roads, I think that's something that we'll be discussing here with the concerns that everyone's brought forward.
Okay, yeah, that was just my one
But
question.
in general, yes, when there's a vicinity plan, then when someone is
You
proposing
can
a
go
plan,
up.
they have to accommodate the city's plan or propose something that will fill the need that
Okay.
the plan is meant to address.
Cool. Thanks.
Whoever wants to go next.
Sorry, I'll go real quick. Trent Lim, 1093 North, 1700 West, next door neighbor on the corner. Again, I echo all the sentiments. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. The distance to travel that would be the exact same as that, only no stoplight. That bothers me. To his question, that was a question I was going to ask. Obviously, we don't want to just be a problem, potential solution per the site plan. Seems like the driveway goes there and comes back out. Would there be a problem of just having that be the end of the road into that entrance and just putting the wall there? Would that satisfy both parties?
And like I said, I think that's something that we'll be discussing after the public hearing ends. But
Okay, thank you.
So my name is Brandon Bailey. I live at 932 North, 1700 West. So I sit in front of that street. I don't know how to turn this laser on. So
It's a button at the tip.
there it is. So my house is right here, and so I watch this street all the time. I'm the husband of one of those wheelchair-bound adults, and so my wife has the opportunity of witnessing a lot of what goes on there. And we have found that in the summer months, the sun sets right over that street, and the kids are riding, cannot see, and so there's also the concern, just to add to everyone else's echoing, that it just has a higher probability of risk because of that. But the one point that I wanted to bring up is that if you don't put those roads in, then that also expands out the ability to have green areas for the assisted living center. It actually would improve the quality of the assisted living center so that there's more for those who are going to be living there. We support the idea of having the assisted living center there and welcome it. We just want to, I won't repeat what everyone else has said. You know what we're thinking. So thank you.
Thank you.
would you like to comment, Mr. Cox?
Fred Cox, again, 4466 Early Duke Street, West Valley City. I just wanted to comment, when we started looking at developing this property, there had been a previous development proposed, and some of the utilities had been installed for that development, and it died when this property was purchased. But when we started meeting with staff, we were basically instructed that we were going to be connecting the roads. That's part of the construction drawings that we have, in addition to possibly doing some other upgrades of a storm drain system, actually not here as part of an impact fee. The individuals that would be coming to this business would be coming from the I've heard it called lots of things, but the county boulevard.
North County.
Depends on which city you're in and who you're talking to. But they'd be coming from there. If for some reason, let's see, if there were a gate right there and a gate right there for, say, a fire truck, that the fire truck could basically open up that gate in the event of an emergency. As was mentioned, both of our accesses there and there, there's no reason that these residents need to go this way. It would be helpful to complete these streets just simply because right now it's kind of a disaster area. I'm not suggesting that we really love the idea that we're paying for the roads, but if we basically connect those roads, and I did get a call from somebody that's probably here that lives over this area and talked to her for some time. She was more concerned with not these connecting, but she was more concerned that somebody has been talking for some time of connecting this direction. And our business doesn't need to connect any place other than right here. And so if the city, we wouldn't have to change our drawings at all as far as our site plan if the city decides that this is an issue that's a big enough deal. If you basically put a gate there, when I'm saying a gate, it's a yeah, something for a fire truck that could open up, but cars wouldn't go through. Pedestrians would be able to walk, whatever, probably bikes. I've got another, but if one was there and one was there, it wouldn't be an issue. The other thing is if you go back, I think, not go back, but go forward a couple until you get the landscape plan, if that's possible.
Let me just do it, Daniel.
Yeah, please. This one, anyway.
Behind. Go behind.
That one. So basically, the two houses that sides are right here. They would basically have a finished street, and so they'd be looking across the street to landscape. One of the individuals that I talked to, you can go back if possible to the previous. The person I was talking to loved the fact that when they looked down this street, they loved looking at the fact that there's all this landscape. If you were to put a wall, as somebody suggested there, it would basically block the landscape. But those gates, if the traffic was a concern and the residents want to leave the cul-de-sacs, it certainly wouldn't impact us just to have a couple of crash gates. When I talked to the state fire marshal, they loved the idea that if they needed to get into this place, they could get in. Obviously, you've got your local fire department as well, but the state fire department looks at any assisted living center, and they loved the fact that they could come into these parking lots and still, if you will, attack a fire. This building is fire sprinkled in its entirety, and so and there are very strict requirements as far as materials, and so we don't anticipate there's a fire. There's safe zones, 3 separate safe zones, so if there was a fire in one part of the building, you would just basically, instead of having everybody run outside, because they don't usually run, you move them to another place in the building. And so that's already in place, but as far as somebody asked if the developer was asking to connect all those roads, the answer is no. But we have agreed to do that. We're still willing to do that. But if for some reason you're concerned with the traffic and you decided to put some crash gates there to fix it so that the 3 roads act as cul-de-sacs, it would not impact us. Anyway, just thought I'd pass that on.
Thank you, Mr. Cox.
I'm one of those senior citizens he talked about earlier. I live, I'm sorry, it's Judy Foster.
And your address?
1839 West, 870 North. So if Brother Michaelis, I don't know, okay.
Is that button right there?
All right, no, yes, he knows where I live. Right there, okay? Now, I bought that house 19 years ago, and I was the only second house. I mean, there was no, the land was just all empty. And over the years, as a school teacher, and I have 2 handicapped daughters myself, as more young families moved in, I saw children, like has been talked about today, move in and play on that street. And of course, we were dead-ended. But the problem is the public didn't know that. And so we would literally have trucks and cars and all kinds of things coming down, realizing they couldn't go through, and then turn around in our driveways, which really hurt, the safety of our children. So I went to the city council and I begged, I do mean begged, for a dead-end sign to be put down there, and they did. So 15 years, 16, 17, that sign has been there, and I really cannot tell you the difference. Now, I was the lady he kind of talked to for 40 minutes. How you doing, Fred? Good. He was wonderful, and, he was very kind. He assured me that both the builder and he are in the interest of not impacting our neighborhood was really critical. In fact, the builder owner lives up in Bountiful, and he invited Fred to come up and really kind of almost imitate his home. So that, like he said, I was impressed with all the greenery, and I was the one that said, we look down the end of our street and it's all green. We don't see the parking lot. We don't see the cars parked there. And in fact, Brother Payne right over here, every month, once a month, our ward has a cookie walk. Now, anybody can come. It's just not our ward, all the neighbors. You don't have to be a member or anything. We gather. Basically, he hands those out. But we gather there. And it's wonderful. It's dead-ended, and it's the sound of children, the sound of families. Hey, I'm a mom, a grandma. I adopt everybody. I know everybody on that street. We care about each other, and I'm sure the same way at 920. We're not just houses, and there's a lot of us now, but we're families. We're families with children, and we care about our property. I don't know how many of you precious angels have had a chance to come over and see, the decisions about what you're doing here to the homes. We really try to keep our homes up. We really care about them, and have put money, like Brother Michael has said, into them. And I don't want to leave my home. And I hate to tell you this, but I have an attorney friend, and he said, "Now, Junie, they're creeping up on you over there. Have you ever thought about eminent domain?" And I don't want to suddenly be told down the road, "PG's coming in, folks. You got to move on out. Where's the cattle? We got to move these critters out." Because I'm going to die there. Now, I know Fred's been so kind to offer me a room. I don't want to hear that, Fred. Because although my friend said, "Oh, Judy, you can go over there and stay a little bit and come on back home." I'm like, "No, I've tasted food at places like that." And but no, truly, and we're very concerned about connecting our streets, you know, like these wonderful people at 920 were talking about. We have precious angel children who, I mean, whether they're handicapped or not, they're precious. And we have enjoyed the wonderful ability to have those streets closed. Now, Fred did mention, and this is why I wanted to stand, and we have, as a neighborhood, talked about a gate of some kind. Now, when I said to Ken, I said, Ken, you know, I fought hard to get that dead end sign down there. What will happen if you open it up? He said, it'll go. So, Fred, I'm saying, okay, we put gates at both those, like you're saying, for fire, you know, the fire department. But what's going to keep people from still coming down thinking they go through that gate, you know, and then turn around in our driveway? And so if you want to keep, I mean, my only thought is keep my dead end sign, put one at 920, and so people say, well, okay, you know, we can't go down that way, then I would be okay. I would be looking at the possibility that would be something we could really look at.
If there were gates, they wouldn't take down the sign.
Good.
It would still be a dead end.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I'm Evan Durfee. I live in 1692 West, 1100 North. I've lived there for 35 years. I lived there when it was in American Fork and it was annexed into Pleasant Grove. And I'm surprised that we could, 10 years ago, make a decision about something that should be 10 years later when we don't have a density study, or we haven't made, we should know that 10 years later it's going to be different than it was 10 years ago. And the whole density of that area is probably the most dense area of Pleasant Grove is right in that area now with all the apartments that are down there. And just this week, and it's not a scientific study, but I thought, I wonder how many cars go by here on 11 North. So for 5 minutes, I counted. There was 40 cars in 5 minutes. So you can figure a couple of hundred cars easily. I did another study, another 5 minutes later in the day, and there was 50 cars, and another time 60 cars going by there. So I figured there's hundreds of cars going up and down 1100 North, and none of them are keeping the speed limit. They're all going 40, 45, even 50 miles an hour down that street. And we know it's a busy, fast street. And I'm concerned about the whole density of that area. And as we build it and as we develop, and we say it's a done deal, but how can it be a done deal when the whole landscape has changed? It's a totally different situation. The density of that area is just unbelievable. And with that many cars going up and down 1100 North, and you're a planning commission, so do you know how many cars go up and down 1100 North? Do you have an idea? And to do a more scientific study, I'd encourage you to do that because it'll give you an idea of the density that's really existing in that area, which is really alarming to me because over 35 years, we've seen a big change. And that density worries me because nobody likes to live in a real dense area. If we did, we wouldn't be living there. We wouldn't have moved there 35 years ago. We would have moved someplace else. And so I hope that consideration is given to the, and with the homes that are going in, I figured, well, with 50 beds, how many cars will that increase in that area that's not going in there now?
My experience, having sold a couple of assisted living centers, is that there's usually one car for every 3 residents that are in there, if that. But then you're going to have some staff that goes in and out of there.
So you're talking probably 50, 75 cars going in there?
Oh, heavens no. I would say you probably got 20.
Well, I would like to see that study. And then with another area going in with more, I can see that area increasing in cars, probably 200 to 300, with what's the density that's already there.
I'm Melissa Griffith. I live at 1017 North, 1700 West. I am sorry, I get emotional. And what you're talking about, I bought 15 years ago with my husband. And we were going to raise our family. They were planning on being there about 5 years. But my husband was the one that was murdered at Provo River Water Users. That's my home that I built with him. My children have all been raised there. My neighbors, all of them are here. That's our community. There is no need for those two roads to be connected. There's no need for further business to encroach in the neighborhoods. There's plenty of farmland down south. The Smiths are trying to sell their farm. There's plenty of plenty of commercial land down that way. This is residential, single-family home. That's the way it needs to stay. That's what we all bought for, and I hear of plans maybe encroaching even further into our neighborhood and turning it business. There's no need for that. Bears Ears has been a big issue about federal government encroaching on the state of Utah. Well, when I hear plans for future for our area, I see nothing more than Pleasant Grove City doing the same thing. We have emergency vehicles go through there all the time. We live by a hospital. They are around us constantly. None of them have had to come through our street unless it was specifically for a resident on that street. And if you put temporary gates in at those streets, crash gates, they're temporary. That's all they are, they're temporary. That will not keep any further encroachment out of our neighborhood. So I would ask you to please, if this was your neighborhood where you'd raised your family, you don't have an opportunity to move and you don't want to, would you want that moving into your neighborhood? Thank you.
If I could mention, we will discuss the issue of the roads connecting. So, if you want to speak to us about that, you can, but we have heard your voices. We will discuss it. And if you have another issue with the site plan, we'd be happy to hear that as well.
Howdy, my name is Jared Payne. I live at 1861 West, 870 North, here just on the end. I've lived, what? Oh, I just live right somewhere there. So, I don't necessarily, other than mainly the streets and safety, which if you guys don't want to hear me whine about that more, we can skip that. That's our big issue there. Part of my issue is I've lived here for a long time, and this section here, there's a fence around this facility. The teenagers have they've cut a hole in the fence here, they park here, and then go in, there's a little ditch right about here, where they go in and smoke, and I frequently push them out. No matter what, we need the fences fixed, and this area cleaned up a little bit as well, regardless of anything else. It is a problem being a mess in the area. It hasn't been maintained for the whole time that we've lived there. Regardless of anything else happening, we need support for getting that cleaned up as well.
Give us your name again.
Again, Mike Adamson, 1769 West, 920 North. Yeah, I know where I live. I just wanted to just give one final thought, and that goes back to our meeting that we had with the city council last week. We probably had at least half of us, if not more, at that meeting as well, too, okay? And I know that this particular issue does not necessarily reflect last week's meeting. But what I think you're also hearing from us as residents as well, too, we're willing to accommodate, but at the same time, you're looking at probably the possibility where somebody wants to come back and do R18 zoning right across the street as well, too, even though that was voted down temporarily. I don't want my neighbors to have the Trojan horse come in with its army of caterpillars and everything else and start digging here to then say someone else come in on the other side of the road to be able to say, well, we'll bring our 90-bed facility there as well, too. It's important to we've got two of the residents right here that are living in those homes, Mark and Lori Christiansen, living here. And, this is longtime property as well, too. And when you talk about not wanting to be able to create a zone or an island for the residents there, I think we have to be really careful to respect exactly what we're starting to do right here. Because you know, again, as well as I do, that once we get started with something, whether it's zoned that way or not, or it's the city's financial plan, or it's the city's plan for development in the future, you're putting others at risk as well too. And so I would just simply say, let's do this one right. And specifically, if you're going to work with us on this one, then also know that likely there's probably going to be a push right across the street. Let's make sure we get this one done right from the beginning with residents, so we don't have to worry so much about what's coming in the future. Thank you.
My name is Lori Christiansen. I live at 1879 West, 1100 North, which was just pointed out up there. One of the island families. My grandparents owned all this property. This Alpine Pediatrics. My grandfather deeded some property that was supposed to make a thoroughfare down to here, and Alpine Pediatrics built on it. We don't know how that happened with the city council and all that, but that was a fact. One question I had for Mr. Cox on your facility. Do you know the lighting situation, like how tall the lighting's supposed to be? Lighting can be a problem for residential areas. I live right across from Revere Health, and we have some spotlights sometimes that come straight into our bedroom windows when they change the light bulb, forget to turn them back up, and we have, just the whole parking lot's pretty light. The Alpine Pediatrics has some very tall lighting and has made it a real big issue for my sister-in-law who lives right behind me right here. And we've noticed lighting along all these. They don't have the big overhead lighting, and then somewhere in here there's some good lighting. And their parking lots look very safe. They're lighted, but they don't have the tall overhead that just cascades down all over the homes. And so I would suggest that to keep the neighbors happy, that's going to be an issue. And it's probably one they haven't thought of because it's a more minor issue than their kids getting ran over. So, but it's a true issue. Okay. So anyway, something to think about. But do you have anything on that yet, or?
Fred Cox again. Typically, most cities, and I believe Pleasant Grove has as well, has required us to have what they call dark sky friendly light fixtures, so you can have a light fixture that's shining down, but if it's got a drop lens, it shines in your eyes. If you've got a light fixture that has no drop lens, it just shines down and it doesn't blast you. My wife is a director of the Salt Lake Astronomical Society. I understand dark skies. The advantage of having a very small parking lot when you only have like 20, 21 cars is you don't need the big, huge light poles that are shining down to keep it safe. And so it's actually less money to either light it from the building, but again, lower, or we can certainly work with staff on that. But I've got a electrical engineer that we can basically fix it so we're not shining in your eyes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
My name is Mike McClellan. I live at 1028 North, 1700 West. So across the street here from the cul-de-sacs, there's two of them right here that go across. My house is just south of those two. And I bought my home in August of last year. And one of the main reasons I picked this neighborhood, it wasn't because of the fabulous County Boulevard or 1100 North. I bought it because my house is off of that far enough that I can let my kids go out and ride their bikes and I don't have to worry about them. They frequently visit the kids on this cul-de-sac, the kids on this cul-de-sac, the kids in this cul-de-sac, and the kids on the two dead-end streets. And right now I don't have a worry necessarily for their safety because generally the only traffic going through there is for the neighborhood. And I understand that there's a fire code that the assisted living center will have to meet. But by putting gates in, I don't see that being a permanent solution. We'll have snowplows come. Where are they going to plow the snow? They don't just pile the snow at the crash gate. It's a seasonal concern, but what are they going to do with the snow? They can't pile it up at the gate because then the gate is ineffective. You can't drive over the snow mountain as we've all seen in Utah, that's not a successful thing to try. So that's my concern is the fire trucks, there's another solution that we can make that they can have the turnaround for the fire truck on their own property, and they don't have to ever connect through it all, and they wouldn't have to have those fire gates that would only be a temporary solution that creates more problems with the snow plowing and with, my dad's a fireman for the city of Orem, and as he's been a fireman, one of the top places they go is assisted living homes. And I can see firemen getting fed up waiting right here, day in and day out, coming and visiting the facility multiple times a week, which I see them do. Across from my in-laws, there's a care facility, and if we go over there for more than 2-3 hours, a fire truck goes by, it seems. And they probably have a similar number of residents as this facility's proposed. So if a fire truck and ambulance are coming here together, which is typical call-outs, they'll arrive at the facility and then they'll want to leave. And if that gate is shut every time they come, they're going to get fed up with climbing out of their trucks, and they're just going to forget to lock it, I assume, because it's the convenient thing to do. Society is about convenience, and putting the gates in would be a temporary hindrance, and sooner than later they would disappear by neglect or by snow plows or just the need for them to be gone. And I don't want to see that. I want the safety and the safety of my neighborhood and my kids to be first and foremost. Thank you.
If there are no other comments, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back up here.
Chair, I want some clarification if I can. Daniel, just for clarification so I understand, with the road, it's in the street master plan, right? So therefore, we can't act on that specific. So in order to act on that, the applicant would have to come and ask for the removal of that road as a separate process. So if we approve what we approve tonight, it automatically approves the road.
You need to take into account that this site plan has been approved twice before with the road.
With the road, okay. I just want clarification that it's a different process and it's something that we can't even really address tonight.
I think we could. We could continue the item or have a.
If he's wanting to start in
No,
July.
I understand that.
Right.
But I'm just saying there are possibilities to do something about it.
So clarification, what is our options? What are the procedural options on this?
Can you please repeat the question? No, I got it. Yeah, so, we can talk about it, but the issue of removing the road or amending, that would be amending the general master plan.
Right.
Okay, so we have a study, we have almost 100 pages already of study, and every single plan that we have shows that road in there.
And how old is the plan?
It's 2009. So if we would like to remove the road, then that's a different item. That would have to definitely be a different item. From anyone can apply for it, but we have to amend the general plan.
So we would have to continue this item and the applicant would have to resubmit a request to remove that road.
Correct.
Is this road on?
It is on the map, yes.
20 North, it's on the master plan?
We've already checked. It's on
Yes, it is. It's in the master plan.
Point of clarification information too. Are we closed?
You could come up. Yeah, I don't mind, but you mention your name again.
Again, Mike Adamson. This is 930, my understanding is, and then you've got a connection to 920. How is that also going to be solved as well too with a through road that connects there?
I live on
Address.
1300 East, and it turns into Dalton Avenue, and it just changes. On a bend, it just changes. So that is not unnormal
Okay.
for the city.
Just checking.
I can't justify it or explain it, but it does exist.
I want to make a point too. Just so you're, not that it has anything to do with this, because it's already been approved, but an assisted living use is a residential use. It's not a commercial use. That's been set forth by court cases that have gone all the way to the Supreme Court. That is what it is. It's a residential use. The other thing is that cities are required to make an accommodation for density with assisted living or with, and that's according to the ADA. So I mean, that could be like a get dry house or a halfway house, and same thing. We have to make accommodations according to the Americans with the Disabilities Act. So those are not even part of the discussion, not only due to the fact that this has already gone through, but due to the fact that we cannot address them. And if we do, then the developer can sue the city. And the federal government will get behind the developer. Just so you're really clear on that. So it's happened many times in Utah.
Clear on what? Are we arguing the?
No, there are some of you that have come up and said, this is not the proper use for our neighborhood. It is the proper use for our neighborhood. They can go in any residential neighborhood. They could go in RR zone and say, we would like a reasonable accommodation for density because this is a assisted living center for old folks, and we would give that to them. So, RR being rural residential. I mean, that we have to make reasonable accommodations for this type of facility, and it is residential, period. So.
Fred Cox again. Just to comment, when the property was originally purchased, it was based on that conditional use permit issued, and that's already had been decided. But several people had mentioned the comments of the road, and we're not proposing to get rid of the roads, but we don't have any problem with some sort of gate to. But I don't know if
Understand, that's not a problem with you as the developer.
Right.
That's something that's between the city and the residents. And, I mean, Jennifer lives on Dalton Avenue, which is a busy street. 1300
Don't put me on Dalton.
instead of Dalton. I live on the corner of Center Street and 100 North. I'm envious of your quiet neighborhood, and I would really like to shut the bridge off that goes over where the canal is. That's my opinion. I think that'd be great.
I just didn't know, you've got a number 6 blank. I didn't know if you have the option of number 6 condition crash gates, and I don't know if you have that option or not.
I don't think it's.
I don't even know if they're allowed in our city.
Okay.
I don't know if we.
have them in some places. I used to live on a road that had one.
I'll go sit down.
I don't know.
Thanks.
I don't know if the ordinance would allow that. I just don't. I'm not aware of one.
We haven't put on private roads
So I
think we have it at assisted.
He just didn't finish. If they had finished, it would have been done.
No private roads, yeah.
So-
But I agree with the snow plow and I mean, if the emergency response has to stop and open a gate, that takes time away from their response time. That to me, I would think would be the safety hazard.
Driving all the way around the block down into that neighborhood also
Yeah,
extends the
so
response
I have
time.
concerns about gates, especially on, roads like that, but. Yes, but I'm not aware of any gates in our city, so I don't know what we have, if we have even an ordinance that address gates.
We do have one, but only on private roads.
Only on private roads, okay.
That's not true.
So you
Yeah. No, what is it? 10. I don't remember my old address anymore. By doTERRA. It goes between.
In the Grove.
Yeah.
in the Grove area.
So, yeah.
It's
There's
at
a
the
little
back end of a.
little row of townhouses, and then there's a gate into doTERRA's parking lot at the back.
Oh, right.
Because they need access for a fire truck through that, it has nothing to do with.
Is that considered a private road?
Yeah, because doTERRA's private.
Yeah, so
Well,
so if
doTERRA,
it,
the road that the gate is leading up to is not private.
okay, I don't know.
But so
Where is it right
I don't
here?
know that I would set a precedence, but gates up.
to me there are two issues. Well, three. So one is that to remove this road connection from the transportation master plan would require another hearing. It would require review by engineering and the fire department and everyone, potentially a traffic study like we've done on other roads to make sure that the surrounding network could still handle the change in traffic conditions. Another is the ownership of the right-of-way, because to me, the fire gates is not necessarily the best option there. Cul-de-sacs would be the best option, although it would look weird to have back-to-back cul-de-sacs. I mean, there is, if you don't mind taking people's property. But there's a reason that we don't allow dead-end roads that look like this forever, right? We allow them when it is eventually planned to connect to another road, and that is because fire trucks cannot turn around on a road like that. And so we're going to talk about this in a little while on another item when we talk about flag lots. There are certain requirements at the end of a flag lot to have room for a fire truck to turn around. That's an issue on all three of these. And then, to me, finally, the ownership of the right-of-way would be an issue. I don't know if the city already owns that, but the city's not going to want to maintain open space there, I don't think. We have enough trouble maintaining our parks.
The other issue we have is it's already been approved twice before with the road there. So we would be going against 2 other votes and approvals.
May I mention another item on there? That I checked the length on the lower road, and it's about 550 feet. Our code restricts it cul-de-sac to 400 feet, but there is an exception to increase it to 650. But it's through Planning Commission conditional approval, and the approval is such that it would need the utilities to loop through the entire segment to the north of the
Most development standards, don't we have a requirement that there is only a certain number of homes that will fit with one entrance into the subdivision, into that one access? Like, most of the time when I've
mean like
worked
an
on
extended
subdivisions,
cul-de-sac?
I'd love to see the end of this, because how far out does this go? How many houses are served by?
One more to the east off of that.
6. There's 6, and then in that cul-de-sac, 1, 2,
7.
6. 13. Houses on that side.
6 on one side and 7
The
on the
edge
other.
is second to west.
I think we're talking about this lower one. Are we talking about the lower one?
That's right. You're asking me if we have gates and
12
public
houses
public
on
roads.
a stem. Yeah, because that would be considered a stem road if we, right?
I mean, if the developer today came and said, I'm going to propose even a bulb right there, we wouldn't let him do that, would we? Engineer?
Sorry, I'm texting the big guy to find out some of these questions.
Well, in my experience working with other cities, I know that they won't let you put that many residences on a street without any connectivity. And I can see how that'd be really nice.
So I don't know if they
in some
restrict
ways,
to a certain number of homes, but it's the length of the cul-de-sac without an additional exit.
And this exceeds this?
Sure.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify, but I was
Yeah,
pretty sure it
if it's okay, I can read the 2 paragraphs from that ordinance.
Go ahead.
So cul-de-sacs, each cul-de-sac shall have a minimum dedicated width of 56 feet. The maximum length of a cul-de-sac shall not exceed 400 feet, except that a maximum of 650 feet may be approved through conditional use permit by the Planning Commission, with positive recommendation by the city fire marshal. In such case, conditions regarding the looping or installation of additional water lines may be required. Turnaround areas shall be 100 feet in diameter.
Okay, so for one, we wouldn't have 100 feet in diameter, and then you've got 85 times 6.
I just have a comment, and there's a lot of things being said. As a planning commissioner, I have to look at the whole city. And I know that this affects your neighborhood, but we have to make sure that we don't set a precedent in your neighborhood. Because once we make that precedent, we can't take that back. And other neighborhoods, and believe me, you're not the first neighborhood that has come in and said, we don't like the development and we don't want the roads. That is what we deal with almost every time we have a subdivision or a development, is the residents come in and say, we don't want the traffic, we have safety issues, and we don't want the road, we don't want the development. And so we have to, take in consideration your neighborhood, and we do. But we also have to look citywide, and how will that impact everything else we do citywide. And we have problems, and we have found issues with some of our ordinances and our codes, and I think tonight we're going to be addressing one of those, where we have ordinances that doesn't make sense. And we try to correct that the best we can. But to set a precedence of start installing gates or walls and cutting off access, I'm really hesitant to do that. It opens up a Pandora's box, that as commissioners, we would have to approve everything, and we would have no way to travel in our city because we'd be shutting down all these roads or putting gates on all these roads.
I'd love mine shut down.
So that just know that, we are very sensitive to the comments that we get, but as planning commissioners, we're administrators, we're not legislators. So the codes are on the books, the master plans are in place. It is our duty to administer those and enforce those. To change any of that, you kind of have to go to the legislators, which are the city council, which some of you know that we recommended something at our last meeting, and the city council went against ours. We're a recommendation. They're not mandated to agree with us, but we have different requirements, and we have to stay more to the legal code. We have less wiggle room, I guess is the best way to say it, than the city council. So that's why you will see sometimes the city council go against the planning, because we really have stricter guidelines.
They want your vote. We don't care.
Yeah, we're not elected body, so. Peter, you have one that wants to talk, and I don't know that I have.
Brandon Bailey again. When I moved in, I looked at the master plan, and it showed this street horseshoeing into this street and this dead ending right there. So I obviously know the master plan has changed since 2001 when I moved in,
Right.
but could we not consider horseshoeing that road and dead ending that road there?
Not tonight.
Not here, I
Not-
understand.
Yeah, not tonight.
I
in this
totally understand.
proposal.
But that would mean that this proposal has to be postponed until that needs to be
That's right,
considered.
and that costs him money.
Correct.
And time. But we've been looking at the master plan all night, because obviously the street was the issue. So we have been looking at it and looking at all our options.
I mean-
we have to follow that plan
You guys
as it
have
currently
a neighbor
stands.
up here that's like, he's like, I've counted the number of trips on this street.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what? If we open this up, that'd lessen it up for him just a little bit.
Well, actually, it'll lessen it a lot, because I sit here and I watch
Wouldn't
cars
that be
pile up
great
here.
for them? I mean, if they're up there, they're mad at
Dead
us
kids
'cause
sitting
we
here on
got
the
too
streets all
much
the time.
traffic on their street.
And the problem is
It's because they all moved, because everybody was scared of the traffic.
and you made the comments how you wish that your street, you'd made the comment that you wish your street was less busy. The problem is that we built and bought and invested because of this plan.
I know.
You didn't do that, so don't fault us for your choices in a busy street. It just,
Actually, Center Street didn't used to go through. It stopped at the canal. It didn't go through until about 1998.
fair enough.
So, and to address a couple issues, we did check on the master plan. There is nothing showing the connecting across the other property. So you take that off. It's not in the master plan. So there's no connection there that we can find. And the other thing is, when you buy a home, I understand that you buy a home for a certain reason. But the thing that most residents don't consider is the land surrounding them and what's the possibilities of that land surrounding them. If you don't own the land, you can't control the land. And so just, growth, people move, everybody wants to make money off of their property, and they have every right to do that. You can't stop somebody from developing their property. We can restrict it to a certain point, but you really can't stop the development. So just know that everybody here bought their houses when we bought our houses for certain reasons, and I can tell you probably everybody here has been affected differently based on on growth and development that we weren't expecting.
Let me also tell you this. Every one of us who's sitting up here will look at some different things next time we buy a house after having the experience that we've had up here.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, because if you don't control the property, you can't expect the property to stay the way it is.
further discussion from the planning commission?
No, I'll make the motion. Chair, I move that the Planning Commission approve the request of Fred Cox for the proposed site plan for Welcome Home Assistant Living Facility located at 1783 West, 1100 North in the R188 zone and adopting the exhibits, conditions, and findings of the staff report, which includes materials for proposed monument or pylon signs are to match the masonry and materials used in the main building. Proposed 8-foot tall fence is to be solid vinyl material. The columns of the covered entry are to be composed of matching stone, and the remainder of the feature is to match the main building. This is to be illustrated and labeled on the plans prior to the issuance of the building permits. That all final planning, engineering, and fire department requirements are met prior to the issuance of the building permit, and all final planning, engineering, and fire department requirements are met.
Can I clarify one thing on that? I'm not sure that we have the right address.
Do we have the right address?
1783 West, 1100 North doesn't sound like the right address. So
Um,
I'm going to make you read that whole thing over again.
So can I, is it the 921?
921.
So I'll amend it to
North.
921 North, 1870 West,
West.
without repeating everything
That's
else.
fine.
So that would have qualified? Well, we have to go by the one that was posted. Whatever the
It was
public-
the one that was posted is, sorry. So the one that was posted is 921 North, 1870 West. That's just a mistake of the staff report.
Okay.
Do I have a second for that?
I'll second it.
All right, that's a motion by Commissioner Baptista, second by Commissioner Armstrong. Commissioner Coombs?
Aye.
Armstrong? Baptista?
Aye.
Aye.
I am also an aye. That's unanimous. Motion carries.
Does this go to city council?
Yeah. When is this going to city council?
No, this is not going to city council. This is a
We're
conditional
the
use.
final. We're the
Yeah.
final, okay.
Sorry, my bad.
You guys are free to stay or you're free to exit?
All right, we will move to item number 2.
For coming.
It's tough.
This must be an easy one.
I'm sorry, but this issue should have been step 1 and not step 5.
Had a lot of discussion
You guys
on
are
it.
10 years late.
We've had a lot of discussion on it.
We're- I understand. Yeah. But the road, we couldn't, the roads was not even the issue we were addressing.
See?
¿Es su esposa?
And as much as we would have.
No sé qué.
More, our hands are tied on the road.
No sé qué tan famoso sea Daniel Cárdenas.
Yeah.
Muy famoso.
So.
I hear you
Yeah,
came
and you
last
can,
week.
oh, you can, this is the third and final, sorry.
No, yo soy de Oaxaca.
Actually, I listened to the whole thing, and I'm kind of glad that I was
Algún día vamos a
sick.
regresar.
I almost would have ended up recusing myself.
Mucho gusto.
Mucho gusto. What's your name? Okay. Good to see you. Está bien. Si tienen preguntas.
So we're going to hear item number 2, a public hearing to consider a request from Dick Calder
That's
for
what I
approval of a
said.
proposed flag lot subdivision that includes 4 lots named Calder's Cottages on property located at approximately 585 North, 400 East in the R18 single-family residential zone.
Okay.
Daniel.
Thank you, Chair.
Oh, the flag lot, oh my gosh, okay. I know, right? We'll do the flag lots.
Okay, let me grab the remote.
It's gonna make me mad. Calder.
All right, thank you, Chair. So this is item number 2. It's a subdivision, a proposed subdivision plat, preliminary plat. Applicant is Dick Calder. Address is 585 North, 400 East. The zone is R18, so minimum square footage per lot is going to be 8,000. And we're proposing a 4-lot preliminary subdivision. Now, this is a one-of-a-kind subdivision. That's the zone where this place is located. It's located in the R18 zone. Everything around is the R18 zone. And that's an aerial view of the property. We're talking about, it's not 116, right? It's 1.16 acres. 1.16 acres, that's the total square footage of this property. Now, this, the peculiarity, or what makes this subdivision peculiar, is because we have some sort of like a 2-flag lot concept meshed into one plat. So what we have is something like that, okay? So right now we have a code and we have ordinance regarding flag lots. And the code is very specific on the number of lots that can be served by a common stem. So a common stem is the driveway approach, if I might say that, more than just a driveway approach, is the whole driveway to serve certain number of lots. And we have in an ordinance at this point, and that's how it is right now, that a maximum number of lots that can be served of interior lots is 3. Total can be 5, counting the 2 lots fronting a street. So that's the reason why this stem right here serves these 3 ones, and then another stem was required to comply with that part of the ordinance that we have. Another stem is required for lot number 4. It's again, it's a peculiar subdivision. Engineering staff as well as planning staff have been working with this piece of land, trying to figure out something else. But that's, if in the words of engineering and planning, this is the best way, the best use to develop this property at this point of what we have in our ordinance. Yeah, so it's a 4-lot subdivision. Every single lot complies with the minimum square footage. Other options have been studied, yeah, and look into it. And again, this was the best use for the property. So the staff recommends the Planning Commission to forward a recommendation of approval to City Council based on what we have right now in our ordinance. This development complies with the requirements, with the minimum requirements we have set up.
Questions for Daniel?
The applicants.
Thank you, Daniel. Is the applicant here?
Thank you, Chair.
Do you care to add anything, or Jennifer has questions?
I'm going to plead. I'm going to ask for a favor.
Morgan Hatfield, 815 North 100 East PG. First thing I want to say is, will Real Slim Shady please stand up? No, we've actually been working on this for about 8 months. Like Daniel said, we came up with this through staff advisory. We've had cul-de-sacs and bulbs and everything you can think of, and with the follow the land, this is just what makes sense. We don't want to have to pay for 2 approaches, but you do what you do. So either way, it's a Hatfield Homes subdivision, so it'll look good. That's all.
Go ahead and stay there, because I want to ask a question for you. Okay, as a planning commissioner, I do not like this. I think the ordinance does not do justice to this. So I'm asking is, would it be an issue for you if we continue this item and as planning commission, we work on the ordinances to make a better solution than doing this?
I'm 7 months into this now. That's a lot of money that we've already spent. We actually had a preliminary, like, yeah, that'll work. And so this is our 4th or 5th draft. It's done exactly what you've said. And at this point, we're going to start losing money on the project, especially since we're dropping down to 4 lots and having to pay for a second access. So again, we got here because of recommendation of staff. And we're property's paid for. We've had excavators scheduled, ready to go, and it just little thing. And we've complied the entire time, just whatever they asked for.
And I understand it, but this is the first time we're seeing this.
Right.
And I don't want to make you have to put 2 flag lots.
I agree.
This is to me, this does not make sense. And
I agree.
that's because of an ordinance. And the only way we can fix this is if we can have the meeting and have the discussion on what is the best
In all
way to
honesty,
do that.
when would that meeting be? What kind of timeline are you referring to? That's the question for us. Like I say, we've been playing along this whole time, doing what we can, and we want to oblige, but at the same time,
You're utilizing an ordinance that isn't 7 months old yet.
right.
So I mean, it was something that we came up with, and we're going, oh crap.
I don't like it either, but at the same time, we're in this to make money. So at some point, you
serious
bite the
issues
bullet
with
and you
this.
move forward. So I'm with you. The simplistic part is simply to say that the second, and that's why we did it in 2 phases, is we won't touch the second phase. And actually, that's the answer. We intentionally did this in 2 phases so that lot number 4 could be discussed after. So that if it was something that we could consider the frontage as access, or if we could widen the existing. So our plan right now is that lot 4 as phase 2, we're not doing anything with it. So maybe we can get approval on moving forward with 1, 2, 3, readdress the ordinance and see what we can do before we start on 4. And that's why it's a phase 1, phase 2.
I think that's, I'm okay with that. I do not like the double.
I hate it.
I don't like the double stem.
It is ugly.
Continuing it realistically, Daniel, would be quite a bit of time.
Yes, because if we continue it, be aware that it's not just something comes to my head and I type it, we pass it, right? I mean, I have to work on it. Once I finish, it has to be a proposal that has to be reviewed by staff, not just planning, but also engineering. And also it needs to go through the legal department. And after it goes through, go ahead, sorry.
I mean, here's the thing, is that I don't think we have the option of telling you no. You have to tell us, let's just get phase 1 approved, and then you gotta trust us.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve 1 through 3, and as a developer,
Morgan, good try.
we're willing to sit on 4, and because we like resolution as well.
Because
Yeah, we
I
can
think
make the
I
motion
think we can do
to
that.
adjust that.
I think we'll go and do our best to influence the city council to let us fix your problem, and then we're gonna take this away, so
Yeah.
this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
So,
And we financially planned to be able to do the 1, 2, 3. We're in a good spot moving forward with the 3 and being able to wait on 4.
Sorry,
Daniel, go ahead,
sorry,
sir.
Daniel.
You can't, if that's how you guys wish to go, but keep in mind that also that this is just a recommendation of approval
Yep.
that goes to city council. So at the end, city council is the one.
Well, with phase 1, or no?
and then modifying the ordinance to figure out how to make this work, and then modifying it again and make it so
Can
this
we
doesn't
not do
happen
that?
again?
So we
I-
don't,
I-
what you just said, say yes to phase 1? and
Yes,
we wanna have a
because
chance to check at phase
it-
2 later?
No, because what we're submitting the application is for a plat approval. It's for a plat approval, and then I mean, what happens before construction? The plat needs to be recorded, so it's not going to make you any good just to get the first phase approved, unless you say, you know what, phase number 2 is not part of my plat. I'm going to take that away, and then we just have a plat that it only shows 3 lots.
Can we
But-
do that tonight, though, or not at all? Because of
What
how it's done right
complications
now
does that
with the
have
plat.
in the future?
Well, the
Well, I mean, if
Then
he
when they come back through, they have to
resubmit and
resubmit
repay,
as a new subdivision
Okay.
and add phase
they've
2.
done it. I think because like I said, we've seen this in many different ways, right? So I think they submitted already 2 different applications because the way certain people on the staff thought it was the best way to do it was to do it by 2 separate subdivisions. But then
that's
another part of the staff engineering decided not to do it that way. So,
So, but because of how it's been presented to us tonight, if we say yes, it's how it's with phase 1 and 2. We can't single out phase 2
Correct.
as how it is for us
Correct.
tonight.
And as the developer, we're okay with that, and then you can fix it after. We've already agreed to eat the cost of that.
How does that, I mean?
No, if we approved all 4 of them, we
If
just do
we-
it as per plan.
If we continue it tonight, can they come back with us next planning commission with phase 1 separated from phase 2?
No, because we have to change the ordinance.
Yeah, I'd rather just move forward in that case. If it's going to hold up time, I'd rather just pay the extra cost for the driveway and say we've all learned a little something here, and we'll and we're willing to absorb that cost at this point. Is my
I believe
my
what
suggestion.
Commissioner Baptista is saying is that she wants to see if we can modify the ordinance so in future this is not an option, or we modify it to be something.
Right, and I'm saying go ahead and
We're
do
saying
that
no
for the
difference
future.
here.
We'll take the old one and move forward, and then the future ones are better.
Because I think if,
Can you
if what
correct
we're
me?
saying with Commissioner Baptista is if we continue it, we're months out. Because it has to go through the process, like Daniel was saying, it has to go back through staff, then it has to come back to us. And that's putting Morgan in a
yes,
sticky situation.
but only approving at phase 1 and say, hey, later come back with phase, or do it by phases, still he won't be able to start construction.
We just want to do it all. Let's just pass it. Let's just approve.
Checkmate right here. They got us. Right? The ordinance fits.
Right.
Basically,
Right.
yes.
Rather not have them have to do it this way. Let's figure out something.
And I don't
else
want this in the
admit
city.
that we did that, and then let's adjust it so this doesn't happen again.
But we don't want
For
to
sure.
We'd rather just move forward, make some money, and then on the next one, we'd be very thankful that the ordinance was adjusted, and because,
That's what I'm saying. We
like I
don't
say,
wanna
we're
hold
6,
Morgan
7
up.
months into this at this point.
Anything we do at this point stops him from moving forward for at
Yeah.
least a couple of months.
Except if we approve it.
Yeah, well,
as
if-
is,
unless we
Right.
approve it,
and
yes.
then we work on a fix before you start on phase 2. That potentially removes the need for a second
Or
stem
get-
lot, right? But there wouldn't be any
Right.
any way of stopping you from building phase 2
Right.
if you wanted to.
Right.
It would just be
But we know
something
you're
to
not
Which
gonna-
again, doesn't hurt you guys at all, it's just more cost out
Well,
of
I
my
mean,
pocket.
I think that makes sense. I mean, I would rather sit there and figure out how to say, look, you can put, let's tell them not to put any driveways in yet, and we'll get this done before they need the driveways.
Can we do that?
And we don't care. You don't even have to get that formal. We're okay with it the way it is, and would be very thankful citizens / local business if it had an option later. But at this point, we'd like to move forward. We've already started to I have a parade of homes coming up in the city. I want to be able to market this from the parade of homes. So, I mean,
So, yes,
it's kind of a big time for us. So,
He's got a time constraint he's trying to fit into if he wants to hit the parade.
so I'd rather just approve it, and then if something good happens, right on.
So,
If
can-
it
can I-
doesn't, I have 2 driveways.
If we approve it and then we change it, can he come back and ask for an adjustment to that approval?
There are actually people out there that like
Yes, for sure. He can always come and amend the plat at any time.
Right.
Is that a cost to him again?
I think they already paid twice.
Three times, I think.
So it would be,
I'm
it would
teasing,
not
I'm
be an
teasing,
additional
Daniel.
cost if they came
Let's
in and
let's
did
talk
that.
it. So I'm really having some trouble trying to catch all different ideas. So let's go and.
I'm just saying, would it be an additional cost if they came in to amend the plat?
No. No, because I think they already paid twice. So, because I make them pay for two different subdivisions already.
So if we
Well,
come
I
up
know
with
you're trying
something
to stop them
different
from
in the
having
next
further
month or
costs
two
with us.
and it still can benefit them, they could come in and ask for an amended?
Yes, but and I don't know if Commissioner Armstrong or Commissioner Steele said that, but it will be up to him. We cannot force him to come back to us and do this.
understand
I
that.
Okay.
think that there's going to be a financial advantage. If we say, go ahead and do this, and by the way, our recommendation is that they don't build the driveways yet, and then let's go ahead and let's see if we can come up with something. And if they get to the point where it's time to put the driveways in and we haven't, then go ahead and put them in.
That's what I'm saying, can we do that?
But let's see if we
we
can
say
figure
no
out
driveways?
something.
Hey, I've never seen a motion like that,
I don't know.
We need to recommend, it's not.
but
Not a motion, it's a wink and a nod.
Well, it's kind of a
Correct.
handshake, saying, Morgan's gonna do the right thing by
Well-
us and.
Well, and the
The truth of
applicant's
the matter,
here,
the
he
truth
knows
of the
we're
matter is
trying.
the way the only change in this that I can see is it's going to stay relatively the same. It's going to be widening the existing driveway, and so I think it's fine. I'm sure engineering doesn't want to see that because they're going to want to see our water getting out and our sewer. So for us to put the driveway of phase 1 in, the only difference is even if the ordinance changed, I'm sure the suggestion would just be, oh, if we widen that, or if we count access off of 400 to the one property, then we don't do anything, but it's already in. So I don't think it'll hurt us to just do it like it is and not do the second driveway.
Right.
I'm just
until
looking at it and I'm going, the second hammer doesn't serve any purpose at all.
it does. It fits the ordinance, and we figured that out.
Please be aware the staff knows that. Actually, I don't. This part right here has no purpose at all.
That's what
right?
I'm saying.
Yeah,
There
for
is no
sure.
purpose to
No,
that.
no, for sure, no.
But it fits the
And the
ordinance.
staff knows that.
Yeah.
So my suggestion is just approve it, and then we'll just hold off on putting the driveway in at phase 2, and we'll readdress it. So.
Anyway, so I'm good with that.
Yeah. So the approach that is there. If you guys allow me this, the approach the staff this was after seeing multiple options, and believe me, multiple options, and the staff really looked into this. That was the only one that fit what we have in our ordinance without a blatant violation of our ordinance.
And we understand that, but with flag lots, it's almost like conditional use. It is so, case by case, and I don't get it. I just don't get it.
What I'd suggest is let's approve this thing. Then let's run an ordinance that says that we can have 4 lots on one stem, and then let's change it back and make it so that you can't put them that close together. So you can't have 2 flags without having, 3 or 4 lots or whatever in between them.
I think
Let's approve it and fix it.
Yeah, I don't know that we can change it and then change it back for one specific. I have concerns about doing that, but I mean, if we can do like an overlay, or if we could do a waiver, or if we could do something that you find a way where it's specific to that area and it can't be duplicated somewhere else. I don't know.
He's not asking us to do it.
I know, but
We're
I'm
doing it.
I'm just saying what you're asking for. I don't know how that
Discussion we'd have to have after
Right.
this. is over. I mean, we have to just move this over.
Well, how about we let Mr. Hatfield sit down and we can.
unless you have something else to say.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys.
We can open up the. Yeah. We can open up the public hearing if anyone else would like to comment on it.
He hates this
Haven't done
one.
that yet. All right, we will. Oh, did you want to comment?
On it too. So if you guys, it's more because of what you guys have been saying, not
Sorry, can you
because
give
what
us
their
your
plans
name and
are.
address?
Yeah. So my name is Tyler Powell. My address is 525 North, 400 East. I'm kitty corner to it, and it's more of just what you guys were saying. So if you guys did amend that, would it be just still that single driveway all the way down, or how would that be?
That would be the idea. Would be to have a single.
Okay. So is that still a possibility that they would keep the 5th house on that as well?
This house right here?
No, house that's
This one?
currently there.
No, it has it has no matter.
My question, and then the
no
other
matter
thing
what
is
has to come
fire access too as well.
Right, which is what the hammer is.
See,
for.
that's
Okay.
what this thing is for.
Perfect. That was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just stupid that, I mean, they
for.
got us.
Yeah.
Because they
We have
could
a double
do
hammer.
2 flag lots in
Yep.
a row right here, but each flag lot is required to have a hammer. And it's like, that's dumb. So what we need to do is get rid of the requirement, just make this thing
hammer right
bigger
there.
like this, and
Okay.
let them have 4
Yeah.
flag lots off of that, which is
Just
not approved
so we would
now.
make the road bigger to
And
get
then in
4.
the future, we'll say, in order to have flag lots like this, there can only be like 1 flag lot stem per every like 4
Okay.
lots or something like that. So this doesn't happen again.
Okay. Alrighty.
Matt Holtai.
Address.
379 East, 500 North. I'm over here, right next to Tyler. Right there.
Okay.
Off of 500 North. So my question is about utilities. Will we run utilities through? Especially sewer
Yeah.
lines.
The point of the flag lots is it lets them be individual utilities that come back to 400 North.
Sewer lines
Back down the driveway, so they're all individual lines from the properties. That's part of the other good thing of doing it.
And then, thanks. And then what about fire access from 400 North onto just one driveway? Is that enough space for?
Off of 400 East?
Oh, sorry, 400 East. Is that enough space for our enormous fire truck to make?
The city would not, this would not come before us if that hasn't been addressed.
Yeah, the hammerhead,
All of that is addressed
intentionally
before it
is
comes
for a
before us.
turnaround. So that's
I'm not worried about the turnaround, I'm just worried about the access into it.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's we've met those minimum requirements.
All of that has to be signed off before it comes to us. That all has to be,
Yeah, the fire department's already looked at it.
yeah, that's part of the process before us.
Okay, that's all I got.
All right, we will close the public hearing.
Oh my gosh.
You want to make a motion?
I'm not.
Make a motion, Drew?
No, I want you to make this messy motion.
I'm going to make this motion and we're going to see what happens.
We're all gonna vote for it, thank God.
I move the planning commission recommend that the commission forward. I move that the planning commission forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the request of Dick Calder for the subdivision plat called Calder Cottages Plat A on property at approximately 585 North, 400 East in the R18 single family residential zone and adopting the new vicinity plan and exhibits conditions and findings of the staff report and all final planning, engineering, and fire department requirements are met. Wink nod.
Second.
It's a crazy
Can I,
subdivision.
with the recommendation that we address this in the
Yes,
near
with the
future?
recommendation that we address this in
ASAP?
as soon as possible.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Coombs and a second by Commissioner Hawkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I'm,
We'll
I'm sorry.
Wink nod, Morgan.
No, I'm sorry that it's taken this long to get here and we couldn't address it sooner so that you.
I don't, when we go to city council, we don't need to address that right now. Let's just get this through like it is.
That's cool.
We have to, they mention it.
Oh, no, no,
I looked at this and I automatically knew that our ordinance
I won't do city
is
council
wrong
that
on this
much.
one.
But Ken is the one
There's
who
nothing
said
that makes sense in our ordinance.
So we'll just get through and then if they come
One,
up with
yeah.
something, we won't do anything. That way you never see
And this is the first time we're seeing it, and I.
Gentlemen, I will advise we continue with our meeting.
All right, we will move to item number 3, public hearing to consider amendments to the city code regarding the regulation of accessory structures. The amendments will provide guidelines for the establishment of metal shipping containers in the RR rural residential, R1 single family residential, and RM7 medium multiple residential zones.
Can I make a motion before we have a public hearing?
I-
Is that, can I?
I think we want to discuss this one a little bit at least because we need to give Daniel
Have
guidance
reason of why
for
we're
we're
continuing.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate the time. Next item, it's a city code amendment. What we're proposing here, this is a proposal from staff. Lately, the city has facing some trends regarding residential zones. We work with tiny homes, and we've been working with other issues that have come to us. As the city planner, lately I've been receiving multiple calls regarding people who would like to install shipping containers on their properties for storage purposes, okay, either in their side yard or on the backyard.
Blame it on Facebook.
At the same time, I've been getting phone calls from people complaining about their neighbors using shipping containers on their side yards or backyards. So this is a conundrum right now, right? So right now, our ordinance, we have some regulations for accessory structures. At the end, a shipping container is considered an accessory structure. We have the main structure, which is the dwelling, and then we have an accessory. Everything else is an accessory structure, pretty much. So the definition, and that's in the staff report. Right now, we have 3 different type of accessory structures that can be installed in the side yard or in the backyard. Okay, so the semi-permanent buildings is the one that matches this the criteria of a shipping container correct? If it says that if it's movable, it's mobile, and also if it's made out of material like metal. So that fits right there. So at this point, without any more regulations, shipping containers are allowed to be put in the side yard, in the backyard. Now, obviously, we have as a staff, and as I have had people calling me and complain, and would like to, I'm looking for the word, but include the installation of shipping containers, but making sure that it's kind of like that matches the architectural features or that matches the residential feeling of a neighborhood. So staff came out with certain language that will allow that, but I would like if we can continue this item in the sense that I don't think I didn't get to the point. I was still studying it this morning, and I don't think it's clear enough. I think it's still very wide open, and it leaves a lot of responsibility, if I may say, to the decision of the community development director and the building department official. So I would like to come up with more specific specifications regarding this. Kind of similar to what we did with the downtown, that we were very specific on the type of architectural, the type of materials, even the type of colors. Even if we have to go there, I think it will be easier. So when an applicant comes to the front counter, we have more specific details regarding the regulations of shipping containers. So that's why I would like to continue this item. And I was gonna, I have an idea right now. I have some language that can go in there after doing searching other ordinances. But again, this is a process that needs to be reviewed by my by the city attorney. Okay.
I have a couple of questions about.
Yes, sir.
This, just things to consider as we're continuing to work on it, because I agree that that's vague, complement the residential environment.
Very broad.
Sorry. Do you know the square footage of a typical shipping container?
They're not precisely, because there are many different types. Yeah, it varies. That's another thing that I would like to address.
Right, because we do have the section further down about accessory buildings above 500 square feet need to
Correct.
match the building.
I think the normal smaller size one is 225 square feet.
Okay.
I think the normal smaller size one is 225 square feet.
Glad you clarified that.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't have any other questions.
So I'll take that into consideration, Chair. Yes, for sure. Another thing that I was, so I like I say, have some ideas already. I already did some research regarding this. I just really would like some review and approval from the city attorney before I present it to you guys. I didn't want to just add it without her taking a look at this language.
Any other questions for Daniel? Right. I will open the public hearing if someone would like to comment on this, things that we should consider, that Daniel should consider as he continues to work on this.
Fred Cox, 4466 Early Duke Street, West Valley City, Utah. I'm an architect. Just something to think about is there are some really cool houses built with shipping containers in various magazines. And whatever you decide to do, you might take into account that someone might actually be able to pull that off and actually work. And you may or may not want them, and you may or may not approve them, but it's not just a storage shed. Someone's going to want their whole house to be a shipping container. So
That would fall under a different ordinance.
Yeah, that's different. This is an accessory structure. If somebody wants to come and do their main structure and do a really modern one with super cool glass windows, and I've seen those, and I'm intrigued by them. But we're worried about this for accessory structures with tiny. We're one of the very forward-thinking cities in the state that actually has a tiny house ordinance in place that's working. So
cool.
Is there something in the ordinance that says it cannot be a residential, it cannot be lived in? just so that it has to fall on?
Yes, we do have certain regulations. Believe me, I'm number one fan. I'm the follower of these things, and I I love them. I know a lot about this type of homes. We have some regulations right now that will stop from a structure like that to be put in place. At this point, yeah. Maybe
Maybe we want to address that.
Would it fall under tiny homes or something like that?
No, because this can be that. And I don't know if that's regarding this topic, but the shipping containers can be very malleable, so you can cut them, put them together, and end up with a very nice product. It's just that we have certain language that says that it has to complement. Correct. That's the word. Complement the architecture of the surrounding properties.
Anyway, I didn't want to slow you guys down. I already did that earlier, so thank you.
We're just worried about people complaining about this because, you know, everybody's a libertarian until their neighbor gets a rooster.
True.
Remember my other question, Daniel.
Oh my goodness.
Would existing, assuming that there are some, and I imagine there are, would existing shipping containers be grandfathered in as, you know, because
have existing?
I'm sure there are.
For sure, that's why we're writing
we've
this
got
ordinance.
getting complaints, right? So if someone already had, it would just be when they're applying for a permit to put in a new accessory building, right? That's
Well, how do you put a container on your property without approval?
Well, you need
So if they didn't get approval, I don't think that they
Just
get
to answer
grandfathered in.
to answer a question from Chair, yes, sir. They will be legal non-conforming if they're already there. Because like I say, right now, ordinance allows them with the language that we have.
But
Yeah.
only if they've been put in place by a permit, right?
So that's the definition of a semi-permanent building. Take away the red part. And it says that semi-permanent buildings are movable, so they don't have footings or foundations, yet are composed of durable materials such as wood, steel, vinyl, aluminum, or cement fiber siding.
Last sentence, though.
Correct.
Required accessory building. But how long has this accessory building ordinance been in place, right?
For a long time, So right now, I don't think, yes, I don't, lately we haven't had a building permit because they still need to get a building permit for it. I don't think we have many. I don't know if we have approved some before because I know there's plenty in the city. I mean, I drive around, at least right now I have 5 spots in my head. So if they got a building permit, yes, they can continue right there. If they don't, then they need to abide by the new code.
But yeah, if they don't have a building permit, that they put it there illegally.
Correct.
And therefore, they would have to comply and come in compliance.
Same as a home, or any structure that you put. I mean, if you build a garage without a permit, that doesn't meet the code, then just go away.
So we'll close the public hearing officially. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. I move that the Planning Commission continue the request for the amendments of the City Code Section 10-9A-8, 10-9B-7, and 10-9C-8 yard requirements. Is it yard requirements?
Pardon?
Am I on the wrong one?
No, I think you're on the right one. It says yard requirements.
Is this under yard requirements?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry, we're talking about accessory apartments, and I'm not talking yard
Yes,
requirements.
yard
Okay.
requirements.
Yard requirements until given date. What date?
The next one, the next planning commission.
So
The 25th.
May 25th.
Correct.
Based on the following findings, that we want the staff to have more time to give a more completed ordinance.
I'll second.
Did you want something more specific than that, Daniel?
No, that I was looking for. Yeah, no,
Motion
that's
by
good.
Commissioner Baptiste, second by Commissioner Coombs. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, move on to number 4, a public hearing to consider amendments to the city code to replace the Pleasant Grove City Board of Adjustments with a hearings officer, which is a different type of appeal authority.
Thank you, Chair. As a little background regarding this is that here at the city we have a lot of people that have that serve in regards to land use matters. We have the Planning Commission, who's an administrative body. We have our City Council, who is our legislative body. They all do a terrific job, and we have the Board of Adjustment, which is they serve as our appealing authority for the city. They also do a terrific job. If I had the opportunity to work with them, In the last year that I've worked for the city, we have had 3 items. So it's an appealing authority, so it doesn't get too many items or as many as you guys do or the city council. They are the ones in charge of giving special exceptions, appeal decisions by the planning commission or the city council, and they also the ones in charge of the variances. So those are the 3 main responsibilities of the appealing authority. Again, right now, that rests on the shoulders of our Board of Adjustments. So lately, many cities in the state of Utah have decided to use a different type of appealing authority. Instead of having a board that it comprises 7, 8, 9 members, in our case, in the city, I think it's 5 and 2 extras. So a lot of the cities are taking a different approach in adopting a hearings officer, kind of like a land use hearing officer. It has different names in different jurisdictions. Here at Pleasant Grove, we'll call him hearings officer. This person usually is a very well, he has a very well knowledge in regards to land use matters. As you know, every year, state legislation come up with new definitions, new bills, and a lot of them have impact on land use. And for training purposes, it's way easier to have one person that is already a professional in the matter to work with us in those regards. So the mayor already had an opportunity to meet with the Board of Adjustment. During the last meeting, they talked about it, and the mayor expressed the desire of the city to move in a different direction on deviating from the Board of Adjustment toward the hearings officer, and they accepted it. The mayor talked to them about having the opportunity to serve in different positions within the city. So again, the position or the, if I may say it right, the position is the same. It's appealing authority. We're just changing from a group. The responsibilities are the same. We're just changing the way we do it. Okay. There's a couple of the ordinances that we have to amend are so many, because we have to change in every single part of the ordinance that mentions the Board of Adjustment. We have to switch that for a hearings officer.
Why are cities doing this?
Because it's easier. Like I say, those sometimes it's already a city a land use attorney from a different city that goes and serves. These guys are easier by guys I mean these people these are easier to they have more knowledge regarding issues. They have more experience, and they're in constant contact with land use matters. They go to training. That's what they do for a living.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I recently read an article from Richfield City, where I'm from. They disbanded the Board of Adjustments because they hadn't met in over 2 years. The problem with that is they can't receive enough training to be able to keep up with the demands of the ordinance, or at least to be able to know what they're voting on. So they went to a similar system.
But isn't it the job of the staff and city attorney to brief the Board of Adjustments prior to them hearing a specific appeal, so that they are familiar with that before it comes before them?
It takes time. It takes time and effort. Effort that can be used on different.
And I know you're super busy, and so's Tina. But let me tell you why this is a concern of mine a little bit. I had probably my first experience with Pleasant Grove City was probably in 2002, and if you guys are familiar with my lot, I wanted to put a second garage on the property because I had this house that I didn't build that I bought that had a 2-car garage. It's a big house, and it just had a 2-car garage, which is pretty deficient for my needs. And even though I'm on a half an acre, I could not find a place within the building envelope to put another garage, unless it was like maybe down on the low side if I had dug away part of my retaining walls, because I'm on a slope, as well as being on a rectangular shaped strange corner. And the staff at that time's recommendation was to deny my request for a variance at that point. And I went before the Board of Adjustments, and they looked at that, and they look at the same issues that the individual who, at that point, it was a guy named Richard Lim, looked at, and he says, I mean, you know, the appeal authority may grant a variance only if a literal enforcement of the ordinance would cause an unreasonable hardship for the applicant that is not necessary to carry out the general purpose of the land use ordinance. Number two, there are special circumstances attached to the property that do not generally apply to other properties within the same zone. Number three, granting the variance is essential to the enjoyment of a substantial property right possessed by other property in the same zone. And number four, the variance will not substantially affect the general plan and will not be contrary to the public interest. And number five, the spirit of the land use ordinance is observed and substantial justice is done. And the individual who is hearing that, I'm concerned that if we end up placing that with somebody who is a nice legal mind and not a citizen within the neighborhood that's looking at it from their perspective. My neighbors looked at it and said, oh my gosh, everybody along this street on First North has garages that are right up to the, I mean, because they're older, there's a lot of garages that are right up to the frontage even, with, you know, that start just inches off of the sidewalk. And they said, you are on a triangular shaped, odd shaped lot. And there were enough of them and enough discussion that went on. They said, yeah, it's not going to establish a weird precedent. I'm afraid that if that specific situation went before an attorney from another community instead, that the outcome would have been different.
I have a question for clarification on that. My understanding on the Board of Adjustments is they have very strict guidelines, and they can't
deviate from it.
So why would you think if the same case went into somebody that knows the ordinances and the laws better that they would do something different?
The community the same way.
But they're under the same guidelines. I'm just saying.
I'm telling you that at that point, the person who was the staff who had Daniel's job recommended against.
Yeah, but staff's not going to be looking at the variance. And you know, I'm just trying. I'm just trying to say, are you under the impression that our Board of Adjustments with citizens gives more leeway to the rule of the law, or you think that an attorney would be more stringent?
No, that's not it. I think that when you have a committee of different citizens that looks at something, each of them, I mean, what if we replaced all of us with one person? Why don't we do that? I mean, we're an administrative body right here. Why do we have a whole bunch of different people with obviously different perspectives that sit together and try to come to a consensus among ourselves in order to all bring different perspectives to the matter at hand before they go ahead and turn this? I mean, that's my concern.
Why is it being the trend of other cities doing it then?
That's why I asked Daniel that. I think it's easier.
No, not just easier, Commissioner Armstrong, and without the desire to be antagonist, what you were reading were statutes already established by state. Okay, those are the statutes that the state has very well delineated, talk about what you need in order to get a variance. There's 2 points that you were missed right there that were super important. I don't know how it was handled, the situation, because I wasn't here,
right.
But the variance shouldn't take into consideration different perspective. Now, the Board of Adjustment and a variance is way different than a conditional use, completely way different. Now, again, without the feeling of being antagonist, variants are super clean cut things. The laws apply. And there's a word that is escaping out of my head that I wish I reach my computer. So in order to get a variance, it cannot be self-imposed at all. So that's a super important thing that a lot of times the Board of Adjustment, because they think they know the neighborhood and because they like their neighbors, they seem to oversee that part and decide to lean that way. But again, variances, there's a reason why variances are very, very, very strict, if I might say. Otherwise, everyone will be getting a variance. So exactly, a lot of people in the Board of Adjustment come up with their vision of what they have instead of basing their decision of what's written on the law
So
per
what
se.
you're saying that they're appealing our You're saying that this is an appeal body for our decision, and this is the level at which somebody's opinion should be taken into account,
Correct.
and that level is just whether they followed the law or not.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's my understanding from all the training I
Correct.
got, and that's why every training class I've gone to, they have recommended that we do this.
And that's why variances were taken away from the. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sorry, before we continue the discussion, how about we hold the public hearing portion of it? And then
That's a great idea.
Bring it back up. So, thank you, Daniel. We'll open the public hearing. If someone would like to comment on this item, feel free. We're glad to hear your opinion.
Can I see your computer?
Fred Cox, 4466 Early Duke Street, West Valley City, Utah. Just a comment. There's an advantage and a disadvantage between a judge and a jury. And I'm not going to tell you what you ought to do. It's your city. But that's what I was thinking when you were talking. Thank you.
Thank you. Care to comment? All right, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back up here. One suggestion that I would make, something to think about, is that the appeal authority, the Board of Adjustments or a hearing officer, is the last step in the process before the issue goes to court. So it's the last step to prevent the city from having a major expense of
Right.
having to defend the action of the planning commission or the city council in court. And so in that way, that's one reason why the expertise of a professional hearing officer may be helpful, is in preventing those situations where, I mean, not that that would necessarily stop someone from suing the city if they were upset about something or felt like it was wrong, but
But less
it's the same
less
it's the
mistakes.
same reason we have professional judges instead of, we have non-professional judges in some situations, but not for important
ones.
legal matters. Yeah, and this is kind of in that gray area where you could go either way, I suppose.
The word I was, if you allow me, Chair, to make the word I was looking for, that is very important on the obtaining of a variance or application of a variance. The word is the hardship. So the applicant's got to prove there's hardship. Now, again, here's when and without the intent of being antagonist, again, I apologize if I sound like that. But when you bring that to a Board of Adjustment, how do you define hardship? So they start looking, well, he's my neighbor, and then the personal opinion goes into it, and it's clear defined. Hardship can only be, the appeal authority may not find a hardship, unreasonable hardship, if the hardship is self-imposed or economic. And that's the key words that a lot of times the Board of Adjustment, and I'm not saying our Board of Adjustment is guilty of that. Okay, please don't I'm not saying that it's guilty of that, but there's a tendency to go over that. I worked with the Board of Adjustment a couple times in the time that I've been here, 2 items in 1 year, and they've done great.
Can I ask a couple of questions? What's the financial impact that it would have on the city?
That was discussed during the budget retreat. It's very minimal. I don't have a number right now because that will depend on the person. But if we meet, they get paid. It's a contractual. I keep forgetting the words. Position, correct. So it's only needed for the times that we meet. Again, if we meet in the last year twice. Well, one in December and one last month. So they get paid by the hour, if I may say that.
But the Board of Adjustments is voluntary,
Yes.
right? They don't get paid.
Correct. They don't get paid.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second question I have is, how often does a person skip the Board of Adjustments and go straight to court? Is that
Very minimal. It has to go through the Board of Adjustment.
has to?
Yeah.
So if it goes to court, the judge will send it back to the Board of Adjustments if it hasn't gone through that.
You know, I haven't got any item that far. Usually they stop at the Board of
Yeah,
Adjustment.
does anybody else know?
I don't know for sure, but it's a legal principle that you have to exhaust your administrative remedies before you seek
Okay.
so I would guess that they would send it back. but
Okay.
I don't know that.
And again, the question regarding the monies involved in this, it was already discussed by City Council during the budget retreat, and they allowed certain budget. I don't know the name of it, how they name it for this type of uses.
Any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Do you see all those numbers?
That's my hesitation too.
Do we have to say all the dashes?
Yeah.
We have to read them all?
I'll make the motion.
Gravy.
I move that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council approve the amendments of City Code Sections 1-11-4, -2B, 1-11-5-1E, 2-1-1, 2-1-3, 2-2E-2N, 10-2-3A, 10-2-4G, 10-2-5B, 10-5-2, 10-15-30L, 10-15-42A, 10-21-8, 11-1-4, 11-5-1A, 11-9-9, and 11-14-3. Did I miss any?
You missed the
Okay.
dash. You missed one dash.
Oh, I missed a dash.
Dash 17
Relating to the Board of Adjustments and adapting the conditions, exhibits, conditions, and findings of the staff report.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Baptista, second by Commissioner Armstrong. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries.
Chair, I make the motion that we approve the minutes for the Planning Commission meeting of April 27th, 2017.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Baptista, second by Commissioner Coombs. All in favor?
Aye.
Before we adjourn, I wanted to suggest an action item, direction to staff. So after attending the Utah League of Cities and Towns training, where we talked about legislative updates and plain language requirements, it occurred to me as they discussed, you have an unlimited property right to do what you want on your property that can be constrained by plain language in the code. And thinking about the conditional use permits that we discussed, one thing that I'm always dissatisfied with is that I don't really know what detrimental to health, safety, and welfare means. And so when we're trying to consider that, and we have residents coming and saying, well, it's going to increase traffic on my street. Well, yeah, and anything will increase traffic on your street. How much is actually detrimental? And health and safety maybe is fairly obvious. What is welfare? You can make some broad arguments about that. So I would like to suggest that we have staff work on better definitions of those, so that we have a firmer basis to consider conditional use permits. And I guess
Okay,
I'll make
I don't have a problem with that. My only concern is I think that is legal language at the legislature. I think that's state code.
I understand that, but I
But-
think we
but
can
I don't-
define that more clear. Maybe
That's my only,
Yeah.
my only question is, can we?
Well, and maybe
can
we
we?
ask Daniel to run it by.
Can we? Because I believe that's state code. And not
Yes,
city
but
code.
I can see if even state has defined that. I don't know, to be honest with you. So
That's my concern. I don't know that we can.
Yeah, so,
dictate
but
this.
I, as the direction of the chair, I for sure can start looking into it and bring you guys a report next time, or whenever I got some information, I can
I
come back
like
to
the
you guys.
suggestion. I just don't know if
Yeah,
we
I'll-
can.
And if we can, then we can, and it's fine. But
Correct. I'll
Language, and I'm like,
think
I
it would
have
make
no
things
idea.
easier on us and on future planning commissions. If
I'll put myself to
we
work
are
on it.
able to nail it down.
I'll take the.
Or
I'll
just
take
do
the
away
advice.
with conditional uses and we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Just saying.
That's what we're trying, right? Eventually,
That's
I mean,
just what I'm
eventually,
saying.
maybe in 5 years. So, if it took you guys forever to read all those ordinances, think about finding them in the ordinance.
Now can I make a motion that we adjourn?
Can I second? Oh.
Go ahead.
Motion by
I'll do
Commissioner
something.
Coombs, second by Commissioner Hawkins. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thanks for coming and spending a second. Oh.
Fire and other people, comments on the project. I haven't seen anything yet.
When we do our review of the site plan, typically we meet with fire. I have not been the one from engineering that's reviewed that with fire. It's typically been for this one, it's been Matt.
We have we have a tiny house ordinance
before you
where
start
we
building.
specifically allow
There are some comments that are going to come pretty soon. I just was curious.
we understand that. We looked at it pretty carefully to begin with. Yeah, we actually went, we've got a tiny house ordinance and we've got an accessory apartment ordinance where it's legal for accessory apartments anywhere.
I came with case law and property
Oh,
rights.
no, ours isn't. Ours is anybody.
To clarify for them what our role is and what we can't. There's a house for sale. And one of them is values you can't. And that's
See, ours, you have to get a license and you have to have, it has to be owner occupied, but you could rent it to a young couple of kids that live down the street from another house, another family, that's okay. I used to see those all the time here, and we just,
this one, because
we tried to balance it pretty well, and we worked on it for a year on the ordinance. And we went back and forth, and we've modified it tweaked it a little bit since we put it in place. But we looked at Orem's, and we looked at Highlands, and we looked at Linden's, and we looked at we looked at a bunch of Provos, and we came up with something that we're pretty good with. The one thing that's really different about ours, and we know we're kind of abnormal and pioneers as far as that goes, is you can put a tiny house on your back property line and put the utilities into it and actually turn it into an accessory.
Well, most of them haven't even approached the issue of small and tiny houses.
I did not know that we were going to have.
Yeah, that's something that was really. We know we're breaking ground as far as that goes, but we had citizens that were coming asking about it.
Well, the double step, I'm sorry, I knew that one. But I mean, I knew it was here, but I didn't know that it was the road. I'm like, really? And I'm like, how many times can we hear you guys worry, we only need a couple of them to address the roads, and everybody goes ditto. You know? Oh my God. I'm like, can we get away from the road? We get it, I know. And the whole time I knew we couldn't address it because it's up. Like, we can't do anything. Bridge. I'm so sorry. I'm driving like a bat out of Hades. And I'm like, I get there, I was like, oh, I can't go fast because we only had enough. Oh my God. I had to find a clarification.
Oh, yeah.
Administrators saying, well, or whatever. You already
Well, I appreciate the feedback. It sounds like you haven't heard of a lot of, have they already